Are any students like mine? Do they just want to dive into the task of sight reading, often without looking first, like doing a cannonball off the diving board? Sight reading is a bit like swimming. Is it safe to dive into the deep end of the pool without knowing the swimming instructions? Is it safe to sight read without using sight reading steps? Fingers don't have brains. I always say that when a student takes off sight reading and doesn't think first, because they're usually having a little bit of trouble, like this swimmer is in the swimming pool. Often like a swimmer without a lot of swimming instruction, a sight reader doesn't notice safety signs, and they don't do well because sometimes they're looking up and down and getting confused, getting lost. They flail about in hopes of making it to the side of the pool or the end of their piece. But they're using speeds that are too fast. And that causes hesitations and replayed notes and all kinds of trouble. Can pre-staff reading include sight reading? It should, because pre-staff reading is training for staff reading. Often there are too many safety devices, kind of like using floaties in the pool or an inner tube to keep you safe. Yes, you can have fun in the pool, but are you actually swimming? The safety devices that you see in music often are too many fingering numbers that are over the notes and too many alphabet letters that are in the note heads. It really slows down comprehension. Pre-staff reading should use different sets of fingering, like using fingers 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 3, 4, and 5. It helps students to gain reading skills because they aren't stuck thinking they can only play certain keys with certain fingers, and it also helps their finger strength. Pre-staff reading should use different sets of keys so students can learn to navigate the entire keyboard. These are Melling shape cards. They really help students to learn intervallic patterns in music. And so this is the pre-staff set. I use them on a group of 3 black keys with fingers 2, 3, and 4. Later, fingers 1, 2, and 3. And even later, when they get more finger strength, fingers 3, 4, and 5. And they play them like this. Low, middle, high, high. When they get good at it, they flip it upside down and they have a new shape. They play it again. When they get good at that, we add in a few lines behind, and that helps them learn staff reading faster, so that when they get to this set of cards, they're on the normal staff, but there's no clef. So the lowest note on the card becomes the tonic. And so this one, I'm going to play it for you in the key of D flat major. I'm going to start on an E flat. So we go down a step, up a step, up a step, up a step. Okay, and I have them either say it or sing it, and I apologize for my singing. But anyway, here we go. Also use them for ideas for composition. They're really good for that, and students write down their composition. That helps them understand the notation better. And they also use these cards to learn harmonization. I'll show you with the next set. The next set is intervals of 6th through the 8th and accidentals that are added. So I'm going to use this card right here. Let's play it in the key of G. So the lowest note is going to be my tonic right here. My last note is the tonic. So then I figure out, okay, what is the distance between the tonic and the first note? It's an octave, okay? So I go from here down a seventh, up a third, up a second, down a fifth, okay? So I'm going to actually be starting on the tonic. So a good chord to go with that would be my 1 chord. And then I'm going to switch to my 5/7. And they can play it in whatever rhythm they want to. They can make up their own songs. And it all strengthens their sight reading. This piece is called Kangaroos. And it's out of the Music Experience A book, which is all pre-staff reading on the black keys. And so this piece, I'm going to show you a little bit about how I teach rhythm to a beginning student. I don't always use normal numeric rhythmic counting with a beginning student. On this piece, I'm having them emphasize their left and right. So instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, or even 1, 1, 1, 2, or a quarter, quarter, half note to help them read that rhythm, I'm having them say what they're doing with the rhythm. So they're going to be doing left, 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 2, right, 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 2, left, 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 right, 2, 3, 4, right, 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 2, left, 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 2, left, 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 right, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes coming up with an unconventional way of counting can help the students understand the music a little bit better. This is the ensemble parts for the song The Big Truck out of my Music Experience A book. And I'm showing it to you because I want to show you what I do to help students find the right place on the piano. We've kind of developed this weird game in my piano studio, and the kids like it, and it's fast. So this is what we do. We say, I'm not going to play this group of 2. I'm not going to play this group of 3 either. I'm not going to play this group of 2, but I am going to play this group of 3. And then we start counting, and we just go. It is a weird exercise. The kids love it, and it helps them find their right spot. And pretty soon they get in the habit of just doing that every time they sit down to play, and they know exactly where they're going to be and where they're going to play. So the middle one is for a drum part. You could use a drum on a synthesizer. You could use a drum on a clavinova sound, or just a drum if you wanted to. This is how we would play this one. We would say, I'm not going to use this group of 2. I'm not going to use this group of 3. I'm not using this group of 2. I am using this group of 3, but I'm only using the low key with finger 3. And they would play the 2, big truck, the big truck, 2, and it would repeat 6 times because they're going to be playing that as part of the background for when this comes in. This also helps kids when they're playing concertos. They're used to counting out a bunch of beats before they start and come in, and it really helps them. This last part they love, and it's very obnoxious, but they love it. So here we go. Say, I'm not going to play this group of 2. I am going to play this group of 3. I'm not going to play this group of 2. I am going to play this group of 3 with my left hand. And here we go. It goes left, right, both, 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 both. They they love playing that, and their parents get tired of it, but I love it that they love it. One of the challenges that students have is when they move into different octaves, and sometimes it's difficult for them to find the correct notes. What can we do to help them improve? It just takes a lot of drill. Some things do. Music experience books have activities with easy ensembles that are written in different octaves on purpose to have students be challenged in reading in different octaves early. The staff to key recognition cards are correlated to the music in the music experience books, and there are 22 different activities. Activity number 14 is particularly special for use in transfer students who have trouble reading ledger lines. My students have a lot of fun when they're doing relay races with the staff to key recognition cards. Written theory activities should be played. Always. It really helps students understand the connection between writing the theory and doing the playing. They need that activity. This is from my B1 book, and it's one of the exercises I use to teach the students how to find the Y keys. And it also teaches them where to play these keys on the staff. I'll show you. So the exercise is basically finding a group of 3 going high, middle, low, then playing F. And then moving from the highest part of the keyboard on down to the lowest part of the keyboard. So let's do a super score file. And here we go. High, middle, low, F. High, middle, low, F. High, middle, low, F. High, middle, low, F. Switch to the left hand. High, middle, low, F. High, middle, low, F. High, middle, low, F. Play the highest and lowest F. Doing this exercise in print format is fun, but doing it in super score format is even more fun. Plus, it's more educational because the student has the notation to go along with the names of the keys. It really helps my students do more. These are staff to key recognition cards, and they're correlated to the colors that I use in my books on the top of the keyboard, and also behind the notes in the pre-reading books. So this is the very low octave from here to here. The divider card goes between the F and G. So I would say this is very low C, and I would put that in. This is middle C, and I would put that in. I play it with my right hand because it's right hand middle C. I do have a left hand middle C for the bass clef middle C. That's a very low G, and I put it in there. I'm going to pull out a yellow card so you can kind of see. Here's a very high A. And the students would just go through the stack of cards, putting the notes in there, playing them and saying them, and it helps them really understand where the notes are played. I'm a firm believer of any written activity must be played to be thoroughly understanding. that activity. So this is another Grandstaff writing in the note name with a SuperScore app, but I also have it in the actual book form. So you can use the pencil icon and you can draw in the theory, but I think it needs to be played. So because of that, this is the B3 section of the Music Experience B3 book. And so here we go. We're going to play it in SuperScore. And I'm going to name each new note as I get to it. And here we go. E. C. A. Starting on G, left hand. G. E. C. A. And so all of those things together help the sight reader become better at quickly identifying where to play notes and how long to hold notes and keeping a steady beat. It's just better. Can beginning students start sight reading right away? Yes. Yes, they can. There are steps. They should name the notes and know the correct clef and which hand is the correct hand to use. They should name the intervals and the note direction. They should clap the rhythm while counting out loud or play it on a single key. They should know which fingers to use to start to play and play while naming the intervals, note direction, and counting. Read it right at sight is one of the activities in my Music Experience books. This happens to be out of Music Experience B2. And all of these examples start on a certain pitch. And the students have to write that in on the line right here after identifying those pitches. I also like to use different starting fingerings on notes to get students used to playing, and different fingering combinations on the same keys. So what I have students do is name the notes. They go through, they name the intervals and the note direction. They either clap the rhythm or play the rhythm on a single key, and then they play it. So each example they go through like that. Then we challenge them to see if they can do it with the SuperScore file. So I'll do that next. So I'm going to hit play. We're going to start on G with finger number 1. I think it's important to name the note first, then name the fingering. G, 2, 3, up a second, 2, down a second, 2, up a second, stays the same, down a second, stays the same, down a second, 2, 3, 4. We'll start with G on the left hand, finger 5. G, 2, 3, up a second, down a second, up a second, 2, stays the same, 2, down a second, stays the same, down a second. going to start in the right hand on a G with finger 3. G, 2. Up a second, 2, 3, down a second, down a second, up a second, up a second, down a second, down a second, up a second, down a second, 2. Left hand's going to come up next. It's going to be G with finger 3. G, up a second, down a second, up a second, up a second, down a second, up a second, 2, 3, down a second, down a second, up a second, down a second. Now, super score is pretty cool because if a student can't play it at that speed, you can slow it down. If a student is super bright, you can challenge them by going even faster than 100%. They really like doing that. What steps can students use for more difficult sight reading? In a moment, I'm going to show you an example from the Music Study Sheets Level 6. I've written up through Level 12, but a lot of the process is the same. So I would say students need to explain the time signature. They need to know what that means, or counting is going to be off and it is going to be hard for them to sight read correctly. They need to play the rhythm on both hands on a single note. They must be able to identify the key signature, and if they play the key signature too, it will help them remember what to use for the key signature. They need to name the intervals and the note direction on each staff. They must play and say the notes of the scale and plan scale fingering. Students should name the chords either with figured bass or with pop symbols and find the common notes between each chord. They also should plan chord fingering. They must plan the starting fingering and name every note by fingering change and know where that note is played, actually play it. They should play at a tempo which is slow enough for accuracy, and that is so important. And then transpose it. Transposing just helps them comprehend what they are doing and other scale systems and key signatures, and it just strengthens all their reading. These are some things I do. So first off, I would have the student identify the time signature. In this case, it's common time, so they'd have to tell me it's 4 beats in a measure and the quarter note gets 1 beat. And the next thing they'd have to do is name the key signature, and I would have them play, especially at this level, they're still working on order of sharps and kind of forgetting sometimes how that all works. And so if they play the key signature, it helps them. So I'm going to give you an example of that. So what I have them do is play the sharps. So you have F sharp, you have C sharp, and from the major key you go up a half step from that last sharp, and that tells you if it's a major key. So I check the very last note of this piece and I see, oh, that's not ending on a D, that's ending on B. So let's check that out. If I go down 3 half steps from D, a minor third, that gives me B minor. So I think this is in the key of B minor. Of course, the other way to do that is to go up 6 notes in the scale of D, and that also gives you the B for your B minor. So whatever way you do it. But I think it's really important to play the sharp. F sharp, C sharp, up a half step names the major key. It just really helps, and for the flats to play those two and play the system of that. Okay, so here we go. Next thing I would have you do is tap out probably the rhythm on a single key. So we know it's in the key of B minor, so to kind of make that a little bit more solid in the student's mind, I would have them tap that out. So they go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then I would have them name the starting notes of each system. So this is middle B, and I use finger 1. This is B, D, and F sharp, and that's making one chord or a B minor chord, and I'd have them name the chord. This is high B with finger 5, and this is B, low middle C, middle B with my left hand thumb. Okay, so that just helps students know that they're not going to be staying in the same place and they're going to have to move when they come down to here. Next thing would be to name the melodic intervals and their direction. So it goes up a third, up a third, up a second, down a second, down a second, down a second, and go through all of it and name it. Then my book says to play the melody in a slow, easy tempo, which means play the whole entire thing. I'm going to add a couple more things I would like you to do. I want students to be able to identify the note by every fingering change. So that's middle D with finger 2. That's F sharp with finger 2. If they say F, I know they're not thinking about the key signature again. Left hand, that's F sharp with finger 2. It just helps me in F sharp with finger 4. That lets them know that they're going to have to move their hand. Okay, so then the next thing I ask them to do maybe is probably identify the chord. So I would say I'm in the key of B minor, and this is a 1 chord in the key of B minor. There's an interval of a 6th and 4th. That's a second inversion 4 chord. So let's say 4, 6, 4. If you'd rather do pop symbols instead, whatever you do, naming those chords really helps the student know what's happening. So this would be B minor, that's E minor, / B, B minor. Okay, this one's a C sharp diminished chord, B minor, C sharp diminished. That's a G chord with B on the bottom, and that just really helps them. And even the broken chords, if you can have them identify that, it helps them before they play it. Then I just ask them to play it. I probably wouldn't have them play it that fast. If they play it that fast, they're most likely going to crash unless they're really, really good at sight reading, and it's one of the favorite things that they love to do. There are students like that. I've had them. But most students couldn't take that speed. The next thing I'd have them do after that would be do transpose. And if they transpose something, it strengthens their ability to read intervals and recognize chords within a different scale system. Do you think our students feel like this person that's in the water? I think they do sometimes when we give them a sight reading piece. Some troubleshooting for sight reading. Number 1 is practicing at home enough to retain the information that we teach. Number 2, when was the last time eyesight was checked? also, they should maybe check this website, www.erlen.com. Some students have a problem with different lighting causing different problems with their eyesight, so that what they see is not what we think they're seeing, and it becomes kind of jumbled. So go to www.erlen.com and check that out if you think a student may be having this problem. Number 3, is a student looking at the note stem instead of looking at the note head? It does happen. It does happen. If you notice that a student will jump to a pitch that you're totally unexpecting, and you notice that the one note had a stem going down and the next note had a stem going up, that may be one of those times when they are not thinking clearly and they're looking at the stem and they think they have to go a lot higher or a lot lower. Make sure they look at the note head. It also is how they figure out all their chords and everything else. They have to look at the note head. Okay, so number 4 is fingering instead of the notes on the staff what the student is using to identify the notes. A way to know this is if they're playing, especially in a 5-finger pattern, and a note moves to an unexpected place out of the 5-finger pattern, but yet they play the fingering of the 5-finger pattern instead of moving to the other note, then they may be using fingering instead of the staff to identify their notes. So that is something that must be addressed. Does the student think changes in rhythm also change the pitch? Ways to identify this are to notice what a student does when there's a repeated note pattern that has a rhythm change. If they're playing the repeated note but they see the rhythm change but then change to an unexpected note, then they are probably thinking that the rhythm changes the note into something else to play higher or lower, and then that's something that they need to fix. Number 6, is a student using accidentals and key signatures correctly? One way to fix that is to just have them play all of the accidental notes that they have to encounter. And another way is to have them play all of the notes of the key signature that they encounter as they come up, and only the key signature notes out of the piece. It'll fix pretty fast. Number 7, does the student trust their fingers to play? If you see them looking up and down and up and down and up and down, they don't trust them. So a way to fix that is to put a book between the music rack and their hands, or maybe go out to Amazon or some other place and buy a set of basketball dribbling glasses. I've not done that last part yet, but I'm going to buy a set of those glasses because I think the students would have fun with that, and it would also just help teach them to not look at their hands. They have to trust their fingers to do what their eyes are seeing. Number 8, are bar lines stopping the student? Oh, this one happens far too often, doesn't it? I think usually it's because they're going too fast and they can't comprehend everything that they're seeing. And the easiest way to fix that is to slow down and make them count and subdivide. And that is the easiest way. If they still have problems, then only go maybe 2 measures plus the next beat of the third measure and cover up everything else so they don't try to play it. And make them play that until they cannot stop. Train them to not stop at the bar lines. Okay. Number 9. Is the student playing written theory? I think this one is so important. And it's extra sight reading. So just ask them to play everything that they write. It really will make a difference. Number 10. Is the student counting every note and every measure while sight reading? If they do this, they will slow their mind down so that they can think about everything they're doing, and they'll process everything much better, and it all just works a lot better. Along with counting, students should just be encouraged to just play a lot of ensembles, duets, duos, concertos, any ensemble that they can do. And if you don't have another student to play those ensembles with that student, you become the other student and do the other part with them, or play with a MIDI file or an MP3 file. Just anything you can do to get them to play while they're playing an ensemble will help them count a lot better. Assignments for sight reading need to develop quick identification of notes, intervals, rhythmic patterns, key signatures, chords, scales, and correct geographic navigation of the keyboard. What sight reading steps do you assign? I would like to thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great Music Ed Connect conference. Thank you.